Welcome to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Vernon Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX-TV in San Francisco.
You got it, boss.
And Bruce McGowan.
How can I follow up on that one?
You can always follow up. Okay, let's see. Today's show is going to be very special because we have sports psychologist Jeff Greenwald on in the studio, actually, not on the phone,
Nice.
in the studio.
Nice.
So we're going to talk to him about some issues. And we're also going to ask some sports trivia questions. And the first three emails with the correct answer are going to win a free vacation at the Lighthouse Resort. And let's see here. The trivia theme, we got to, what does it got to be? It's got to be the Super Bowl.
Ah,
Of course.
No question.
Because after Sunday, we're going to talk about something else. And let me make a quick little plug here for San Jose McHenry Convention Center is ready to rumble.
That's a lot to get out.
It is with WWE Access, with two X's by the way, coming to the convention center on March 26th to 29th. San Jose has the lowdown on the SmackDown.
I interviewed Hulk Hogan
Did you?
a little while
That's
ago.
How
And
old is Hulk Hogan, by the way?
Yeah,
Vernon?
is
How old
Sergeant
is that guy?
Slaughter going to be there?
Sergeant Slaughter, I'm interviewing at the end of the week.
Excellent. Okay,
Yeah.
so get
Okay,
your
I'm sorry.
WWE Access ticket.
Just curious about the guy's age because he's been around forever and he still looks pretty good.
He does.
Yeah.
Okay. So go to Ticketmaster.com. So once again, purchase your WWE Access tickets by going to Ticketmaster.com. So yeah, we'll definitely have to have Sergeant Slaughter on or one of those guys.
I was looking at these classic clips from him because we're going to do a little story on him and have a little fun in the ring with him.
Okay,
So,
good.
Yeah.
Also want to cover sad news. You know, Ernie Banks passed on. So
Let's play two.
Let's play two.
He was the first superstar I ever interviewed in my career.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
In my career.
Wow. What a way to
He
start
showed
your
up.
career.
He
huh?
showed up to the Diamond in Richmond, Virginia. At the time, it was the home of the AAA Atlanta Braves farm system, and there was an all-star game, an old-timers game
Oh, yeah.
scheduled for that, and Ernie Banks showed up. This is July 1985,
Wow.
and I don't even, he shows up, and he was the same as you always saw him. He was
Classic.
all upbeat. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how's the family? Hey, man, what a good day for baseball. Let's play two.
All right, let's play two, and let's play Sports Econ 101 when we return.
Right.
Yeah, I love those old guys who just have a lot of class.
Mhm.
They just, they say what they feel, which is what we should say when we're younger, but a lot of us don't, unfortunately.
Yeah, we hold back.
We hold back because we're not real sure of ourselves, and also we've,
Yeah, like Richard
you know,
Sherman.
as Gary Radich always says, we haven't lived a little.
Right.
You know,
Oh.
I have to apologize to you guys if I seem kind of in a funky mood. I just found out half an hour ago my wife's grandma, who's real beloved in our family, just passed away. But she was she
Jeez,
was
man.
in bad shape. She had Alzheimer's, so it wasn't 93. So she
Wow,
just,
Bruce, you can't catch a break.
Yeah, I know. And
Jeez.
my best friend's brother-in-law, who was younger than us, just died. But he was in bad shape too. He was in a hospice yesterday. So this poor friend of mine who just went up to be with his sister who's got cancer. His brother died last summer. He was 74. His sister's got cancer. She's 73. She's doing okay. Got the first chemo treatments. Now he's up there, and the brother-in-law of that sister, his brother-in-law is drops dead 2 days ago. He wasn't doing well either.
Wow.
So it's just that's part of life.
God, we only had a psychologist in the room.
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh,
right?
wow,
This
yeah.
is
Yeah,
101,
yeah.
we're going to grieve
Yeah,
together
Let's
today.
grieve together
Yeah.
today. That's
We're going
right.
to grieve together.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to put it all in perspective about
Yeah.
that mistake was, really not a big deal in, the big
Yeah,
picture. But of course,
Exactly.
some people don't agree with that.
And last week, my mom, we were really scared. I thought she was going to go on Sunday, and then yesterday I went and visited her. She didn't remember any of the stuff that she went through.
How old is she?
92. Going to be 93. Yeah, they get to be that age, and it's like
Anything over 80, it's gravy.
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
yeah.
Until you get to 80.
So every day I wake up without a toe tag on, I'm happy. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vernon Glenn and Bruce McGowan. Now, in the studio here, we have sports psychologist Jeff Greenwald. So, first of all, Vern here wants to lie on the couch and reminisce about Ernie Banks, and we'll get into that in a little bit because we all need a little grieving process with that. But one of the reasons we wanted to have you on was Mr. Bostick of the Green Bay Packers.
Poor
Was
guy.
quite the goat.
Yes.
And you know, you can look and see there was at least 15 different situations that could have happened differently where he wouldn't have been the goat. You know, it could have been somebody else.
Now he's the guy, if you don't know what we're talking about, who muffed the onside kick
Exactly.
that allowed Seattle to get the ball back and score what turned out to be a go-ahead touchdown, and then of course Green Bay came back and tied it, but then Seattle won in overtime. So he'll live with that, the goat horns for a long time, and he was just a backup player, just a not a regular guy.
And he should have been blocking rather than catching the
But
ball anyway.
when the ball comes up like that,
you.
don't you? I mean, we ball played sports. You know, the instinct is to just
Exactly.
grab the ball,
Exactly.
and it was an
Yeah.
easy grab. It wasn't
Exactly.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he had his hands back and let it hit the helmet first.
Well, he had his hands. It kind of went through his hands.
Well,
It kind of bounced a little bit.
Well,
yeah.
we talk about fight and flight, but there's also a freeze response. I think
Yeah.
we saw freeze right there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a tough moment, and of course everybody remembers the miss, but fight or flight, it kicked in, but that is instinct definitely.
God, just imagine Twitter world just blowing up, his cell phone blowing up. I mean, just I don't know, how do you get over that? You know?
Stay away from the social media. That's what you stay away from
Yeah,
it.
really.
Yeah, but in this
So what
push
people
button
say.
world, how in the world do you do that?
You
know?
can. You can easily do
Can't.
it. You can. You can put your cell phone away and turn it off. That's what you can do. And that's what I do once in a while. I guess because I do it because I'm older and I grew up in a time where cell phones were not a part of our world. I don't want to get off on a tangent about this, but I was walking down the street today and I saw this woman and she was my age and she's doing this with her fingers. And I said, hello. And she goes, oh, hi. And gets back to doing this. And I said, you remind me of a 16-year-old. She goes, what? What? I said, nothing. Nothing.
How about the woman that got killed by a light rail train because she had her headphones on,
Yeah.
she's looking down, and they'd be like, hey,
Yeah.
but doesn't even look up, boom, gets plowed over.
On the way over here, a guy almost
Yeah.
sideswiped me because he was checking, I don't know, he must have been checking his email. I mean, we all do that, but geez.
It's getting mad, but
Welcome to the gloom and doom portion of Sports Econ 101.
Yes, there we are.
But
Bringing
to
it back
deal
to it.
to deal with that miss, I mean,
Yeah.
you got to feel the burn, you got to feel the sting because that hurts. And he said it in the interview. He just said, I'll move on, but it stings.
Mm.
That was actually probably a really good way to answer that because obviously all the eyes are on him. I mean, what if he came into you and sat on the couch? I don't know. Do people sit on the couch?
They do, but they sit on a couch in a chair. I like to direct them to the chair because the couch we get into dreams. I don't want to do the dream analysis.
How many times per hour do you say, well, how do you feel about that?
How do you really feel?
How do you feel? Well, in this case, it's be appropriate. It's like let's sit here. Let's deal with this. Let's feel the sting because it's going to sting. You can't avoid it. You can shut the media off, but you're going to feel that burn, and time heals. You got time, and hopefully your teammates will support you.
Do you have to find an imaginary key and then go and unlock his or her brain, climb in and just rearrange the furniture? I mean, is that? It sounds funny, but I mean, you gotta. I mean, if they're in that place and they can't get out of it, it's up to you to go in there and clean up the mess.
The guy's going to beat himself up for
Yeah.
a very long time.
For a very long time, and it's a Titanic going down. Hopefully it doesn't sink. You get them before the Titanic, but you got to be able to look. It's all about moving on, and people do forgive, and if you accept as he did, and he owned it. You got to own it, but grow. You got to be willing to grow and learn, and we all know, and we can forgive because. In sports there's uncertainty. We never know when that's going to happen.
It always seems like the best thing to do is to own it because it doesn't do any good to not own it, right? I mean, everyone's going to look at you as like, hey, man, you're taking this like a real man. Whether or not you even think you really deserve to say it that way. You know what I mean? And the other players, I think they seem to be pretty forgiving too.
We all everybody's made mistakes, bad mistakes at one point in their life, and I think we can all identify with. We want to identify with the win, the Super Bowl win, but we know that we all make mistakes. I think people at some point, I think Twitter got a little nicer after about a week or a few days. It got a little nicer.
Well, I started looking at some of the responses and just watching like Yahoo Sports or something, and they pointed out. I mean, a lot of the fans pointed out all of the other mistakes. The interception where the guy just goes down instead of running it back. And, if you think about it, 3 and out, where the field position is, there's a lot of things that you can, you could do. I guess only the kicker, I think, right?
Mason
the only
Crosby.
one, yeah, he's the only one who didn't make a mistake.
Yeah, no, he kicked it straight and true. But what Jeff is saying is so true. I mean, you just have to move on. It's hard to do it. I mean, you make a mistake in a game and it hurts, but it's not the end of your life. You don't die. You know, it's easy for us to
unless
say.
you're like we were talking about this earlier. Unless you're the Colombian.
The Colombian goalie.
Yeah, what was that back in the early '90s?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Well, they take their football or soccer down there pretty seriously.
Hey, you know, in a funny way, hey, you want to start pointing in the right direction and starting to clean it up? Just outrule all the gambling on football.
Good luck with that.
That'll tell you that.
Good luck with that, though.
You know what? Though, even like I don't gamble on the game.
But
but
I mean,
still,
there's billions. There's just billions.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's that on? And so when the guy muffed it, I mean that. Think of the money.
True.
Yeah.
It's also the just the pride, especially like Wisconsin. They don't really have too much. I mean, everything revolves around the Packers. Or Wisconsin football.
Unless you live in Madison and follow the Badgers.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you think about it, I mean, sports are built on the possibility for that to happen, right? I mean, we're all sitting there and we don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It makes it exciting. It's just when you're the one to drop it in that kind of a situation, it's just that burns for forever.
We were talking about this, last week I think it was that the 49ers had that situation in 1972.
72 playoffs,
with
They let one get away. The Dallas Cowboys scored 16 points in the last 5 minutes of the game. They scored 2 touchdowns in the last 2.5 minutes of the
But
game.
everybody points to the onside kick that
was fumbled.
That was fumbled. Yeah. And that guy I think he got death threats.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Well, you can make it more recent. About January 1990, Roger Craig fumbled against the Giants. They're going. 49ers are going in for their. They're going for their 3rd straight Super Bowl win if they win that game, and I think they would have scored had he not fumbled and advanced.
The thing was, though, in that game, and I was at that game covering it, the linebacker, and I can't remember the name of the linebacker for the Giants, punched the ball out. I mean, that's what you're taught to do. That was, you never saw that before.
I know.
Before
when
the
I was
90s.
a kid, I kept
Never
saying,
saw people punching the ball out.
Why don't they go for the ball? The problem is if you go for the ball, a lot of times the runner will. It's a lot harder to tackle.
Yeah.
So the guy will
it's a risk. Yeah.
It still seems like it's worth it.
Yeah, that's a drill. You ever seen that in practice, Bruce? So I mean, that's a drill. They spend a good 10 minutes on the technique of just ripping out the ball.
It's one of those things that is evolved only in the last 20 some odd years in football, and I'm surprised it took that long. I guess because people nobody, it's a copycat league. Everything is a copycat.
I wonder what the statistics are of like turnovers. Basically, just
the numbers of forced turnovers. Well, that's a good question. I have to check it out.
All right.
Any ideas, Jeff?
Well, I was just thinking, still Bostick. I'm just like the best athletes in the world are able to use these to win more in the future, right? You got to be able to use it to your advantage at some point,
That's a good.
You got
to
turn a negative into a
positive.
positive.
A sports psychologist would say.
Exactly. Let's turn failure. Let's turn failure into something else.
You know what the Patriots are going to say if they lose the Super Bowl? Oh, we were distracted. Oh, all the stuff about the uninflated football. Oh, man.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial break here. And again, the theme is the Super Bowl. Who was the first quarterback to appear on the roster of 5 consecutive Super Bowl losers?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Okay, like that?
Yeah.
All right, the first 3 emails with the correct answer are going to win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. Who was the first quarterback to appear on the roster of 5 consecutive Super Bowl losers? Ooh, this one got a guy.
Wow.
Got the guy stumped just a little bit.
5 consecutive Super Bowl
Call
losers.
your sports psychologist. He'll give you the answer.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I know.
All right.
This guy was on the roster of
Sure it's not
5 straight years.
Yeah, sure it's not
This
4,
quarterback was on the
5,
losing
5.
side
But
of the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Okay.
Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back with that answer.
There's only been one team that'll lose 4 in a row, and that was Buffalo. And it was Galen Gilbert, the Cow Bear. Well, we'll see. Let's see if I got it. I don't know. He was a pretty good quarterback in college, too. But not much of a quarterback in the pros. 1991 through 94. Or 93. 90, 91, 92, 93, yeah.
Gail Gilbert.
Gail Gilbert, yeah, from Cal. Yeah, he was there in the, God, when was he in Cal? In the early, I believe he was actually the quarterback the year of the play. 19, no? Is that right? No,
83?
No, it would have been, he would have been a little later. I can't remember who was quarterback in there that year, 1982. Might have been Gilbert. or 33.
Ask
years
Joe
ago.
Cap, he'll know.
Yeah, of course. That was Joe Cap's rookie year as head coach. Boy, what a character.
What a way.
What a way to finish off a season.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay.
All right.
The bear will never die.
The bear will never die.
That's right.
Since we've got you here, we'll go into this one too.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Your host, Edward Brown, along with Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan.
Yes, sir.
Our first trivia question, the Super Bowl. Who was the first quarterback to appear on the roster of 5 consecutive Super Bowl losers? Man, that's a sports psychologist dream. That guy.
You're right.
So,
Brucey, you want
Well,
to?
I was going to say Gail Gilbert, the former Cal star who backed up Jim Kelly with Buffalo, but he was on 4 consecutive losers with Buffalo from 90 through 93.
you would actually be correct.
Oh,
Gail Gilbert, the winning quarterback for Cal in the famous Stanford band.
right,
Okay.
right.
He was a third-string quarterback for the Bills between 1990 and 93. The following season, he was a member of the Chargers and watched Stan Humphries lose to.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And to Steve Young. Steve Young's only Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, he
Wow.
was a beast in that one.
Were you down there for that one, Vernon?
I was there.
Yeah,
I was there for that. That was my first Super Bowl in the Bay Area market.
Now, where was that game played?
That was in Miami.
It was in Miami. Okay, Niners won 2 games.
That was the famous one where you talk about sports psychologists. Steve Young runs to the sideline. Somebody take this monkey off my back.
That's right.
This imaginary monkey.
Yeah, because he'd lost a couple times in
Yeah.
the conference finals. That's right. To the Cowboys,
Well,
and
also-
before that to the Giants.
And also being on Montana's show.
Yeah, have to follow. Yeah, being the guy following the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to shake him off.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, okay, so we have Jeff Greenwald here. He's a sports psychologist. We talked about the Bostick situation, and now I want to move on to something we saw just here in the local paper. So there, for those people around the country, Sarah, which is Junipero High, is a very well-known
It's a prep
out
school.
here.
Yeah.
Yep.
School.
That's where Tom Brady.
Tom
went to
Brady's
school.
Tom
high
Brady.
school. Yep.
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds.
And
And
Swan.
Lynn Swan.
And
Exactly.
Craig Jeffries, who wasn't a great superstar.
Former
but
New York Met.
Yeah.
New York
Third
Mets.
baseman. I
Cardinals,
remember.
yeah.
He was
Jim
very
Fregosi,
Jim Fregosi.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
Former
Phillies manager.
all-star infielder with the Angels and the Phillies manager. That's right.
He was good, yes. Okay, so here's the deal. Is the coach at the 11th hour...
Patrick Walsh.
Okay, I was going to leave his name off, but... okay, he claimed
Now we know.
that he said he could not, in good conscience, risk the health of his young athletes for an insignificant game, and he forfeited
A consolation game.
a consolation playoff
Playoff.
game.
So
Now,
it meant
he
nothing.
did-
It was
now,
like a
he
second
did-
place game.
He did go to the opposing coach and said, "Hey, can we maybe treat this more like a scrimmage,
Mhm.
like a practice kind of scrimmage type thing, controlled scrimmage?" And the other coach said, "No, we want to play this game straight up,
Mhm.
like a real game."
Mhm.
And on the day of the game, Walsh said, "We're not going to play."
Now, in that case, if you have all the kids who want to play, can you maybe talk to one of the assistant coaches and go, "Hey, listen, just coach us for the day." Of course, you get a little bit.
If he's crying liability, doesn't matter who's coaching. I mean, it's Sarah's product on the field. So if a kid gets hurt,
Yeah,
then,
but that's going to happen anyway, though. Whether a kid gets hurt.
well,
in
I
that
mean,
game
there's
or
the assumption at risk, and they've all signed the forms.
There's
Yeah.
probably, as we mentioned off air, though, there's probably a lot more going on behind the scenes politically.
Oh,
but
there's got to be
Yeah.
more than the 3 columns that you got in front of you. There's got to be more to
Well,
it.
maybe there's some issue, like you said, with the 2 coaches where he asked and the coach said, "No, we want to play." So he said, "Yeah, I'll show you. Well, we'll just forfit."
I'm just wondering what our guest
But
thinks,
he
especially about
had been warned.
Yeah.
He had been warned by the head of the
the
CIF or whatever it was.
Central Coast Section Commissioner.
Yeah, and said, "Hey, look, you got to play this game. If you go in there and just dog it, then there's a clause that says that
Yeah, you're banned.
you're going to be banned for the playoffs for the next year. No, for the next year.
Okay, but this one.
But then she tacked on another year because she thought it was just a blatant disregard, disrespect of the rules.
There's something going on behind the scenes, but I'm curious to hear what our guest has to say about the kids because, if you're a football player, and most of these high school kids don't play college football, I mean, how do you feel? You got to have
Yeah,
some...
if you're a senior, that's it.
Well,
You
I
know.
think look, you have it gets competitive. You want to win, and you try to. There's times where you protect, maybe not quite as significant as he said, that particular game. If you're in another conference, you got bigger games coming. But that being said, there are kids waiting to play, and to your point too, Edward, like their third string. Why not play some of the guys,
Yeah.
have them play? And I think that when you send a message that, outcome, winning is everything, it's more, and what happened to playing the game and getting better and improving, working together and all that good stuff.
Well, as someone had pointed out here, that while it's a relatively small thing, the coach is essentially telling his team that yes, there are rules, but they don't apply to us. And then, rather than it being a hardship on the seniors, I think it's more a hardship on the juniors and sophomores, because they're the ones who cannot play in the playoffs the following year.
That's right.
This was just a consolation one. It's like, okay, you're done.
I think every
Although
team,
the door is open for some kind of compromise, some kind of a meeting of the minds. Yeah.
I think you need a philosophy, to as a coach to decide what kind of culture you want to have and what kind of people you're going to raise, athletes you want to raise in at your school.
And the person who enforced the ban has now retired.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, because they do talk about the ethics that when the coach signed up for this, he signed up to say I'm going to play the games. There's no thing about the forfeit if you decide you don't want your kids to get hurt. Like you said, all the kids, whether it's this game or a real playoff game or whatever, if they're going to get hurt, they're going to get hurt. I mean, no one's like gunning for them. There's no bounty on their head or anything.
That's what I hate about high school sports, though, when they have politics involved, because it's really the last bastion of pure sports. I mean, college is no longer amateur, let's face it. And the high schools, to a large degree, they are. I mean, it's too bad.
They get caught up in the win and the lose, and it gets you can lose perspective sometimes.
No question about it. And also, I think one of the other problems too is that people who get into positions of power, whether it's a coach or a commissioner or somebody who's overseeing all of this, they get a little full of themselves and think they're kind of God. Well, you're not God. You're trying to help kids out.
For a high school coach.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Well, it's the same thing with giving grades. Like when I was teaching I taught at the high school level, I taught at the graduate level, I taught at college, and the thing is, you don't have an ego. I mean, I see these teachers who would nobody gets an A in my class, and it's like, why? I mean, don't they, especially for the high school kids where they need to get, I mean, if they really deserve an A, give them the A because they're going off to college. They may not be able to get into a certain college because their grades aren't there.
Yeah.
What, because you have an ego?
Yeah.
Makes me think of John Wooden. He never said the word win in all of his career. I mean, would he forfeit a game? Wouldn't have ever forfeited a game? I don't think so.
No.
Right.
No. Getting back to this unnamed teacher, why did he or she say, well, nobody's ever getting an A in my class?
It was an ego thing. It was just my class is so
hard, so tough.
Yeah, so hard that like any mistakes would suddenly push you into a B plus something. And it's like, wow, that's just ridiculous.
Not to get off on a tangent about this, but wouldn't it be wonderful if you had students who were motivated enough that you didn't have to cajole them to get A's or B's? Let's just learn as much as we can, and that'll be a reward.
Like, let's engage on the material as opposed to the A or the B.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the. We can get in a whole topic. My wife is an educator, so we talk about this quite a bit. Yeah.
Quick little thing here. Did you see about this poor guy who was supposed to? I think he was like a volunteer or something for the Super Bowl, and the guy posted a picture of his Super Bowl pass. His ticket.
Oh yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
Not supposed to do that because of the idea that someone could look at that and basically copy it and make some fake tickets. So now the guy got disinvited by the NFL. So now he doesn't get to go to the Super Bowl.
Well, there's so much counterfeiting going on, and people making tickets that look just like the real thing.
That's true.
They even tell us with our press passes on the TV side that they really want to discourage you from like taking a picture like the whole thing and maybe throwing it on Facebook. Hey, look, I'm going to something. Yeah, it's.
What's interesting too, since 2001, since 9/11, every press pass, with rare exception, if you cover a major American sport, has your picture on it.
Yeah.
Never before 2001 did that occur. Now, I'm not saying that.
Although if you're from out of town though.
Yeah.
Like I go on the road all the time.
Right, you get a temporary.
And then they issue a pass.
Right.
Your picture's not on it.
No, for that. But I'm just saying for the hometown ones, and that's,
Just draw a stick figure.
Yeah.
So this looks like me. So, as a sports psychologist, what do you tell this fan who now cannot get into the game? I mean, because like,
Was he working for the league?
Yeah.
So he's going to be working the game in some capacity.
Exactly.
Well, that's a lot different than.
Get a good TV.
Yeah.
Have a beer, relax, probably enjoy it. Just
Yeah, because they can't do that. I mean, if I'm a season ticket holder and I happen to have tickets, they can't tell me not to do that.
Right.
You know, but this one, I guess they were able to control it. So we feel sorry for that.
Did this guy have a ticket, or he's just going to work? He was just going to work the game.
No, well, he had a ticket because he was able to take a picture of it.
Okay.
Right. And that's
he
where
could think about Bostick and he'll feel a little better. I guess.
I'm curious to get our guests' thoughts about today's athletes. Though, you know, we were talking. Vernon and I was kidding Vernon a little bit about it, and we were discussing it about the Twitter thing, and you know, everybody's into the social media, and how I said you should shut it down. Obviously, that's not realistic. But how do the young guys and women today deal with all that stuff and keep it in perspective? And how do you, as a sports psychologist, you know, do you find yourself talking to these guys about be careful what you say, or you know, have they run into some problems? I mean, some of the athletes that you've dealt with because of things that they've done on the social media.
Well, I think what happens, you got to get into a conversation about intrinsic motivation versus all this extra stuff. People worried about what other people are thinking about, and it's just pervasive. So I help athletes own what they want, set their intention for how they want to be when they play, whether they win or lose. How do they want to be out there? How do they want to compete? And being resilient. And as far as the social media, that's just noise. Shut your phone off. I have pretty strict standards for that. So, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Tell you what, we got to cut to a second commercial break here. We'll come back and discuss more of this. All right. The theme is the Super Bowl. Who was the first player to be at least 45 years old to appear on a Super Bowl roster? Okay, so again, who was the first player at least 45 years old to appear on the Super Bowl roster? And Vince Lombardi, that doesn't count. Okay. Yeah, the coaches don't count. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
But that whole technology thing, it's hitting a a tipping point.
Oh,
I think.
yeah.
So, like I see the 75. You know,
Oh my
I've seen them. They're in the car and they're.
Well, the players now, everybody's got a Twitter account, and some of these guys will not go on. It's not that they won't go on the air; they will go on the air, but a lot of them are so.
Well, I've not been called back in the office yet.
Wanting to expose themselves
I'm really serious.
to
You tell
a question
me
they don't like, that they like the idea of having to control,
like
or they can just control what
the mystery
message
guy, or
which is all.
No, I don't see anything.
I just don't want them to like some stupid technicality.
In terms of the impact.
In fact, you know what?
I don't think it's
Why don't they hire me as an
one of
additional
those
small
why
employee, and then the whole thing could be a sport?
Right.
CBS.
And that wasn't by choice, but 6-7 years ago, or 8 years ago, whatever it was, that happened to me where I got downsized out of a job. But at the same time, I'm just thinking, God, I know Vernon has to deal with this all the time, but he's gotten into it because it's necessary. But I worked at Comcast for years as a producer. I could not believe, and the twittering was just starting in 09, and I couldn't believe all the time these people wasted worrying about these little one-liners from people who don't know shit. Who don't know shit. Really, I mean, I hate to sound blunt, but it's true.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're knocking the sports fan. They're the people who are buying your product and they're listening to you. But I mean, it's like I got better things to do than to worry about what some Joe Blow is thinking right now. I want to go out and cover a story. So and the athletes too. I don't know. Anyway.
I think athletes worry about whatever people think, and people do that. And then this is going to exaggerate it, magnify the whole thing.
So we can ask that question because I'd like to hear that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Here we go.
We go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan. Say hi to the folks at TV Land. Okay. Second trivia question.
Don't want them to feel left out.
That's right. That's right.
Who was the first player at least 45 years old to appear on a Super Bowl roster?
Man, that one got me stumped, and I should know that one. You have an idea?
George Blandon?
See, that's what I would have said.
No, because he never played the
He never played the Super Bowl.
No,
Steve DeBerg.
Steve DeBerg?
He played with the Falcons against the Broncos.
Wow, I never would have gotten that one.
Really?
He was a backup quarterback.
Wow.
Backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And he was the guy that Joe Montana
replaced, right?
Replaced, exactly. 1980.
Okay. So let's see here. What do we got here? Okay. So again, we kind of mentioned this earlier that Ernie Banks passed on.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mr. Cup.
It's a good thing that the sports psychologist is here because all three of us are very upset.
I'm upset. The first, Vernon was talking about the first interview he ever did. I'm really dating myself. First time my parents ever took me to a ball game. Took me out of school, second grade, with my brother, Seal Stadium, day game, pennant race, Giants versus Cubs. First guy who ever hits a home run that I see in person. Ernie Banks of the Cubs.
Wow.
And the Giants won that game, by the way.
What year is that?
1959.
Wow.
I was
seven
MVP
years
year for Banks, I think, right?
I think it might have been, or
yes,
it
it
might
was.
two in the late
He
50s.
won back to back.
Yeah.
There you go, 58,
59.
59. Despite the Cubs finishing a combined 64 games out of first
They were
place.
so bad.
And it says here a feat even more impressive by the presence of Aaron, Mays, Eddie Matthews, and says here even Warren Spahn. So I'm just going to go over just a couple of things there. In fact, the first home run I ever saw was Rick Monday, 1967.
Original Oakland A.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So unfortunately, Banks never played in a single postseason game, and he holds the record for most career games without a playoff appearance.
By the way, did you know Rick Monday
Yeah.
played with the Cubs, was traded for Ken Holtzman,
That's
who was
right.
a big part of the A's
Big
championships in 72, 73, 74. Ken Holtzman, the left-hander, combined with Catfish Hunter, the right-hander.
So Rick Monday he didn't win with the A's.
No, he got traded to them in 70, I believe it was.
And then didn't he go to the Yankees?
No, he went to the Cubs, and then he
Just
moved
the Cubs.
along to the Dodgers eventually.
Oh, the Dodgers. That's
Yeah,
right. There you go.
Nice guy. He still does Dodger games on television. Great guy. Great guy. And radio.
Well, next time you talk to him, tell him that I was very impressed that he was a bottom of the ninth type of.
Oh,
so I
there you go.
I became a Rick Monday fan.
Wow, that's nice.
So it says here, okay, he played in 1,285 regular season games over 19 seasons at Wrigley Field. That makes up almost 16.5% of the 7,797 games that have been played at Wrigley Field.
And before they had the lights, well before.
Yeah.
Again, the lights came up, I think, in '87, and he was out of the picture by 1970 or 71.
So just a few other things that are kind of fun. Selected to 14 All-Star games.
Wow.
And it says here, as a 19-year-old, he signed with the Kansas City Monarchs in the Negro Leagues in 1950. He said he spent some time with the Harlem Globetrotters.
I did not know that. I know he was the first African American to play for the Chicago
And
Cubs.
as I say, he was with the Cubs in 1953, and he was the first black player in franchise history, which 6 years after Jackie Robinson.
Well,
It took
you
6
have to
years.
remember that most teams did not bring. There wasn't just this sudden
Yeah.
floodgates opening up. I mean, there was Larry Doby in
Larry
the
Doby
American
for the
League
American League.
and Jackie Robinson, and that was
Roy
it the first year.
Campanella.
Yeah, Roy Campanella was later, a couple years
Yeah.
later. I mean, it was 5 or 6 or 8 or 9 or
I
whatever.
don't know. If I was a team owner, I mean, I know there's all the political stuff and race stuff going on, but
It was
you
a
see
lot
a guy
of-
like Jackie Robinson, you go, that guy's good.
Yeah.
I want more guys that are good.
But I mean, not to
Yeah,
get
but you're fighting bigger forces than
Yeah,
that
sure.
to bring him in. I mean, that's why Bear Bryant scheduled USC
yeah.
because he wanted to integrate his team and he couldn't.
Yep.
So he schedules USC. USC comes to Tuscaloosa with Sam Bam Cunningham, just kills Alabama, and after that,
And that was in 1968.
that was 68, Edward.
Is that
Wow.
actually
And,
the story?
and after that, the university said, "Oh, okay, well, I guess we
Yeah.
got to go get some."
Yeah, it took them that long.
Alabama's
I mean, the
really
voting.
friendly to blacks, aren't they?
No, the Voting Rights
There's
Act
a-
passed in
there- there is a-
65. It took
there-
that long.
There is a fantastic documentary. I think it's a 30 for 30.
Really?
It's
I
a
gotta see
great
that.
documentary on the integration of the Southeastern Conference
Really?
football.
Okay.
Oh, it's
Remind me. I
it will
gotta-
it
I'd
will
love
make
to
it will
see
make
that.
your jaw drop. It's
Wow.
it is unbelievably well done.
What's really disturbing, and again,
Yeah.
not to get off on a tangent, is a lot of young Americans, and I say young, anybody under the age of, say, 40, doesn't know anything about what happened in the 1960s with regard to Dr. King, with Ralph Abernathy, with the Black Panthers, and all that stuff.
Oh, and it's like fingers on the blackboard. You
Yeah.
ask somebody like that today. I mean, under 40,
They don't
and they'd be
know.
like, and the response will always be, yeah. I know something happened back in the day.
Well, and even,
They
It's
know
like,
Martin-
oh, my
they
God.
know Martin Luther
what's
King.
what's even more
Yeah.
disturbing is a lot of those people are black kids because they're not taught in school.
They're not talking about
Nobody's
Martin Luther
taught.
King?
No, well, they might maybe talk.
Well,
about
I mean, they're
Martin
talking
Luther King.
about it. I mean, you have to. I mean, that's part of
Yeah.
the curriculum. I
Yeah.
mean, we have a holiday for Grammy's sake.
Yeah.
But I mean,
why
but
not?
as
There was a
far as
lot more than Martin
as
Luther King.
events that happened and why they happened and what was behind it, I mean, it's
Yeah, and Martin Luther
I mean,
King was a central
people
player,
don't
but he
know.
was only one of many. There were,
You know
a dozen people
Tell
that
them
were
to
there.
watch Forrest Gump. There's a good section right in there that talks about that. Okay, just a couple more fun things
Yeah.
here because we got to give a little tribute here to Ernie Banks. Very class act.
By the way, Jeff, did you grow up an Ernie Banks fan, or is that a little before your time?
Just a tad before.
Yeah, I was going to
Okay.
say, yeah.
I'm not going to date myself like you, though, Bruce.
Okay, so he had 4
I know.
consecutive 40 or more home run seasons from 1957
Wow.
to 60, and neither Hank Aaron or Willie Mays ever had 3 straight seasons of 40 home runs. Now, of course, Wrigley Field was the shortest porch, wasn't it?
Well, it was a home run hitter's paradise.
And we're talking about poor Cub teams there.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
these teams probably that came in, they were like, it's the Cubs. Yeah, one decent guy. He was pretty good. Let me give him my best stuff. See if he can hit it.
Yeah.
You know, and so they pitched to him.
That's a good. You know what? That's a really good point.
Yeah,
very good.
He
point.
probably got more opportunities, but at the same time, I mean,
Yeah, nobody wants to lose to the Cubs.
Yeah.
You know.
So he's the only player to have multi-home run games against both Warren Spahn and Sandy Koufax.
Wow.
So he hit 2 home runs against Sandy Koufax.
If you're Ernie Banks, Jeff, how do you stay positive in light of year after year after year? And in those years, there was no free agency. And teams, you know, that were great, like the Yankees and the Dodgers, stayed great. And teams that were bad, like the Phillies and the Cubs, stayed bad. How do you know, how as a player, and you were stuck on that team, that you couldn't jump around? How would a player...
And Bruce, these were back in the days. This is before TV money.
Yeah.
Back in the days where you had to, you know, maybe have a regular job outside of the season.
Yeah, even Ernie Banks, too.
Well,
So
it makes me think of Tiger going out and practicing, you know, his putting when he's, you know, #1 in the world. And, you know, not to mention his little, you know, phase where it didn't work out so well, but you know, you keep perfecting your game. You're never there. There's no there. So might as well kind of find your, you know, have your goals that you're going to work on and just stay with that, and hopefully, you know, and then the money can come at some point. You know?
Sure. But I'm just saying, you know, Ernie Banks had to feel just looking ahead, you know, looking at those years and thinking, geez, are we ever going to get good? And yet this guy, as Vernon was saying, is so upbeat and so happy. I mean, when you interviewed him, Vernon, it sounds like, you know,
Well, he's just so uber. I mean, just over the top, just uber positive. I mean, it was like, you know, it was a small sample size of that. Derek Carr of the Raiders. You interviewed him yet?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, rookie quarterback.
Well,
yeah.
I think he was married for 53 years or something. So he had
There
a
you
good
go.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that helps, you know, too. But when you love what you do and you can, and you're really into it, you know, you can find flow, and that's what best athletes, musicians find, that they love what they do so much that you know.
You can find flow. What does that mean?
Flow is that state that we all kind of want or have had maybe at one point, where we're just in the zone. You know, it's sort of like being in the zone where time stops.
Well, Buddy Biancalana said that. He said
Time slows
he was
down.
just an okay player, but
We just saw it for 9 minutes with Klay Thompson the other night.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Now that was an example of it, right?
Being in the zone.
God, the flow was coming out of his
The ball
pores.
is bigger than the, you know, huge ball, and you know, it's just
Or what do they say? A huge net or a huge basket.
everything gets bigger,
Yeah.
and things slow down, and you get in that space. But you can't do that if you're worried about winning or losing. You got to be totally immersed in what you're doing at the moment.
Well, since we have a sports psychologist with us, I did want to ask this question here. Is it time for Peyton Manning to retire? So do you deal with athletes who are getting to the point where it's, you know, they only have so much left to go?
Yeah, and there's a sense of urgency sometimes at the end. You know, they want to do well, but sometimes, you know, athletes can play their best when they know the end is coming. They see the light at the end of the tunnel, so they can let it go. But definitely, you know, retiring from sports is one of the harder things because your identity is so wrapped up in what you've been doing
And
for
you're
so
usually
long.
pretty young. You're not like George Blanda, you know, all the time. How old?
But George Blanda,
Page,
yeah, and the thing about George Blanda, he wasn't playing every day. He was coming in and kicking once in a while.
Yeah, that's true.
Once in a while he'd play. But yeah, that's tough. I mean, because he's still probably one of the better quarterbacks in the game.
One of the better quarterbacks. You could argue that he had one of the best years of his career.
Yeah.
I mean, it's say what you want. I mean, I'm one of these guys that says, hey, you know, only one guy can really kind of decide when it's over, and that's the guy playing.
I thought it was his wife.
But no, are you kidding me? His wife's looking every 2 weeks at a paycheck and saying, yeah, well, get the hell out there.
Get back at it. I don't care if you get a.
Yeah, exactly.
You really
Yeah.
think so? Though, at this stage, I mean, he's got.
I mean, money's not an issue. He's got all the FU money he could possibly make.
Yeah.
But
it ain't, you know, about money, of course. For those guys at that point, it's they get the dopamine fix in their brain when they're in that flow. There's nothing like it. You got fans, you know, 20,000 people screaming at
Also,
you.
you do want to go out on top, you know. When you start to see your skills start to really slide, I mean, that's got to be really hard because a lot of times you can't get it back, and you don't want to go, oh, man, now I got to leave, and I leave at a time when, you know, I'm making all these errors or.
Well, what part of his game did you see to the untrained eye as diminished?
No. I thought he had a great season. I'm just wondering, you know.
Now maybe he might know, you know. Okay, my brain said to, you know, throw it on a rope out there on a back shoulder pass, and I couldn't get it there. Then, you know, maybe you start thinking. But
Well, I guess
We don't know.
The thing
You know?
the people are critical with Peyton Manning is that they see him failing in the playoffs every year, and they think, oh, geez, he's not that good. He's not Joe Montana. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Terry Bradshaw. And I understand that to a degree. I always felt good for John Elway because he failed 3 times in the Super Bowl, but then at the end of his career, he won 2. So, I mean...
Wait, did he fail 3 times?
Yes. He lost in 1980. Well, he lost 2 games back-to-back and then one before that. I'm trying to remember.
No, he didn't lose 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, he lost 3 Super Bowls in the 1980s. To the Giants, to the 49ers, and the third one was
Washington.
To Washington, yeah. Yeah, they got killed in that game. Doug Williams, you remember, came out and had a game of his life. That
Yeah,
made
they
his
started
career.
off
And then they had that running back, Tim Smith. Nobody had heard of him.
No, he had the game of his life.
Yeah, they had a 200-yard game. Yeah.
I think it was one of our trivia questions at one point.
How do those guys come up with those kind of performances anyway? And I mean, where does that come from? What do you think? I mean, how does a guy come out of nowhere? Not coming out of nowhere, but just lift himself up to that level.
They train, from early on. I mean, how many athletes are, they're out there early, and this is trained. Success, it doesn't happen overnight, right? So it's just they're, what's the definition of luck? Preparation met with opportunity.
Yeah.
Definition of luck, right? So they're
This is my one chance to shine.
and you hope you're not,
Just like in Jerry Maguire when Cuba Gooding Jr., remember? I love that guy.
Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Show me the
He
money.
does, he does the, he gets creamed in the end zone, but he holds onto it and pretends that, he's
He did a
knocked
good,
out.
that's not an easy job to emulate a pro football player. I thought he did a pretty good job there.
And now he's on. Now he's on Fox's biggest hit going right now, and that would be Empire.
Oh yeah, I've heard about
Yes,
that.
it's the biggest
He's
new hit.
my favorite
He's
actor.
great.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, tell you what, we're going to cut to our third and final commercial break, and the theme is the Super Bowl. Now, last question we had was about Steve DeBerg. So, speaking of Steve DeBerg, which 2 quarterbacks both began their careers by replacing him? The first 3 emails with the correct answer are going to win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Subject, again, of course, to their $75 cleaning fee. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question, I had to get that in. Steve DeBerg, which 2 quarterbacks both began their careers by replacing him? All right, stay with us. When Sports Econ 101 continues, we are going to have some closing comments. Stay with us.
Now, one of them was Montana, but who's the other one?
Favre? Brett Favre playing for Atlanta?
Yeah, but I don't know if he did, but he didn't play
But I
very
think he was
much.
traded to the Packers, and then he became a star.
Yeah, that's a good guess. Give it a shot. His weather's weird, isn't it? I said his weather's kind of weird. It's warmed up
very
about
weird,
10
it's warm
degrees, but it's
out.
overcast.
I was surprised to see the little sprinkles this morning.
It'd be nice if we got some rain. But we're not
Can't
gonna
wait till
get-
tomorrow morning. Dawn's going to bring us donuts and everything.
What's that?
She wants to get the movers all hyped up with
Oh,
sherbets.
there you go.
Moving, you mean from here?
From
We
this
go
office.
exactly 1 floor below.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you'll get it done in a couple hours, right?
Oh, yeah. And that's the cheap part. Is the movers. It's the Comcast and
Yeah. All the
Electrical,
setup.
the
Stuff,
software.
yeah, that's going to be a hassle.
the crazy.
Yeah.
All because we got kicked out.
We live up on a hill, and I would hate to think about moving off that hill right now.
Yeah.
My wife would love to live in the flats, but 17 years up there, getting everything out of there, and we don't have that much stuff, but it's just like,
Moving is
ah.
such a
moving.
hassle.
Man, it's just brutal.
Okay, you ready, guys?
Yeah.
Close out the show.
Close it out.
Close it.
Hardest thing to do, to close it out.
Close
That's
it.
another segment.
There you go. Close out strong.
Yeah.
There's never a problem with Vern over here. He's got the bubbly enthusiasm.
I love the voice.
Yeah, he's
Strong. You guys are strong.
Okay. Ready? Gotta get 5 seconds of silence.
Trying to hang.
Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for the show, I'm Edward Brown, your host. Vern Glenn. and-
Down the stretch we come.
Stretch we come. And Bruce
Finishing
McGowan.
strong.
All right. First of all, I want to thank our guest, Jeff Greenwald, the sports psychologist, for being with us. And let's see here. Let's go to the third and final trivia question. Steve DeBerg. Which 2 quarterbacks both began their careers by replacing him?
Well, Montana was
Montana
one.
was one of them. Who's the
God,
other?
I guessed Favre, but I may be wrong.
John Elway.
John
John
Elway, that's
Elway.
right, because he went to Denver.
Denver, yeah.
Oh
Ah.
my God, that's a good one.
Very good.
Another Bay Area guy. See?
Yeah, all these
Stanford.
guys.
Yeah.
By the way, Jeff, if
Who is, by the way, Peyton Manning's boss? Isn't he the team president?
Yes,
Bert?
he is.
Yeah.
He is.
There you go. Anyway, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, that's
That's
what
okay.
I
No, we covered a lot of good stuff. Predictions. I say Seattle 45 to 33. Seattle's going to be
20 to 14.
Pete Carroll, Marin guy, we like him. Yeah.
Any predictions?
I'll go Seattle. I'll go 29. 29.
29 is a tie.
29-21.
Okay. So you got them by 8 points. Anyone?
What about you, Joe?
26-18.
But we're all in agreement. We all
in agreement that
we
Seattle
all
will
think
win?
Seattle.
but we all think the NFC is going to.
Yeah,
Take 'em
it's-
out,
it's-
okay.
it's gonna
Seattle
dominate.
slipped the claws of death, so I think they're going to have a little renewed energy there.
They will.
I think
Okay.
2014.
All right, here's our thoughts for the day. Former golf professional Harvey Pennick said, I learned teaching from teachers. I learned golf from golfers. I learned winning from coaches. Or smart psychologist. And former football player and coach Homer Rice said, you can motivate by fear and you can motivate by reward. But both those methods are only temporary. The only lasting thing is self-motivation. I like that, all right? Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll all see how we did on the Super Bowl gamble here. We're going to be discussing sport topics from a business perspective and giving away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.